My wife cheated on me with the one man I treated like a brother. For 10 years I thought I had built a good life. A quiet house. A stable job. Sunday dinners with both families. A wife who smiled in public and called me her rock, whenever people were watching. Her name was Emily. And my best friend's name was Ryan. Ryan had been in my life since college. He was there when I proposed. He stood beside me at the wedding. He helped me move into our first house. He knew where I kept the spare key. He knew my work schedule. He knew my weaknesses. That was the part that hurt the most. Not that my wife betrayed me, but that she betrayed me with someone who knew exactly how much damage it would do. The first sign was small. A phone turned face down. Then came the late nights. Then the sudden passwords. Then the way Emily stopped looking guilty and started looking annoyed, like my pain was becoming inconvenient for her. At first, I did what most men do when they feel their world cracking. I tried to explain it away. Maybe she was stressed. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe marriage just changed after years together. But deep down, a man knows when his home no longer feels like home. One Friday night, Emily told me she was going to visit her sister. I didn't argue. I kissed her forehead, told her to drive safe and watched her leave. Then I waited 10 minutes and followed her. She didn't go to her sister's house. She drove across town to a small hotel near the highway. And Ryan's black SUV was already parked there. I sat in my truck for almost an hour, staring at that building, feeling something inside me go completely silent. I expected rage. I expected tears. But what came over me was worse. Calm. Cold, empty calm. That night I didn't storm inside. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me destroyed. I took photos of both cars. I wrote down the time. Then I drove home. When Emily returned after midnight, she smelled like perfume I hadn't bought her. She walked into the bedroom and smiled like nothing had happened. "Long night?" I asked. She froze for half a second. Then she said, "Yeah. My sister needed me." That lie changed everything. Because in that moment I realized something important. She wasn't just cheating. She was confident. She believed I was too loyal, too patient, too predictable to ever fight back. The next morning Ryan came over like usual. He brought coffee. He smiled at me. He asked how work was going. And I sat across from him at my own kitchen table, watching the man who had been sleeping with my wife drink from my mug. That was when my revenge began. Not with violence. Not with shouting. With patience. I started collecting everything. Messages she forgot to delete. Bank statements. Hotel charges. Screenshots. Photos. Every little lie became a brick. And slowly, quietly, I built the wall that would fall on both of them. But the betrayal didn't stop with Emily and Ryan. It spread. My parents started telling me I was too suspicious. Her mother said I was emotionally distant. Even my own father told me, "Don't ruin your marriage over jealousy." Jealousy. That word almost made me laugh. Nobody knew what I knew. Nobody knew that Ryan was smiling in my face while destroying my marriage behind my back. Nobody knew that Emily had already moved money from our joint account into a private one. Nobody knew she had been planning to leave me and make herself look like the victim. But I knew. And instead of warning them, I let them talk. I let them judge me. I let them believe I was the problem. Because the truth is stronger when people don't see it coming. 3 weeks later, Emily came home and told me we needed to talk. She sat on the couch with tears already prepared. "I don't feel loved anymore," she said. I looked at her quietly. She continued, "I think we've grown apart." That was her plan. To leave me first. To make it sound clean. To make me look cold. To make herself look brave. I nodded. Then I asked, "Is there someone else?" She looked offended. Not guilty. Offended. "How can you even ask me that?" That was the final lie I needed. I reached beside me and placed a black folder on the coffee table. Emily stared at it. For the first time in weeks her face changed. "What is that?" she asked. I didn't answer. She opened it. Inside were photos of her car outside the hotel. Photos of Ryan's SUV. Screenshots of messages. Receipts. Dates. Times. Everything. Her hands began to shake. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. I leaned back and said the first honest words I had spoken to her in a long time. "You taught me how to stop trusting you." She started crying. Then begging. Then blaming. She said it didn't mean anything. She said Ryan understood her when I didn't. She said she was lonely. She said it was a mistake. I listened to every excuse. Then I said, a mistake happens once. You made a schedule. Her face went pale. That night she called Ryan. I know because I had already expected it. What she didn't know was that Ryan's wife, Laura, had received her own folder that same morning. I didn't send it with anger. I sent it with a note. You deserve to know the truth. By midnight, Ryan was calling me nonstop. I didn't answer. Emily sat on the floor crying, but I felt nothing. Not because I was heartless. Because the woman I loved had died long before that night. All that remained was the stranger who wore her face. The next morning, both families were invited to our house. Emily thought I was giving her a chance to explain. She thought tears would save her. She thought my parents would pressure me to forgive her. And maybe if I had walked in empty-handed, they would have. But I didn't walk in empty-handed. I walked in with proof. When everyone sat down, I placed the folder in the middle of the table. Then I looked at my father, the same man who had called me jealous. And I said, before anyone tells me to save my marriage, you should all know what marriage I was actually living in. The room went silent. Emily whispered, please don't. But it was too late. For weeks she had controlled the story. Now it was my turn. The room was so quiet I could hear Emily breathing. Her mother sat beside her, confused at first, then nervous. My father leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, like he was already prepared to tell me I was overreacting again. Ryan wasn't there. That was not an accident. I wanted him absent. Because guilty people always look worse when their silence speaks for them. I opened the folder and slid the first photo across the table. Emily's car. Ryan's SUV. Same hotel. Same night. Same time. My mother picked it up first. Her face changed immediately. What is this? She asked softly. Emily started crying before anyone even answered. That told everyone enough. Her father reached for the next page. A hotel receipt. Then another. Then screenshots. Then dates. Then messages where she and Ryan joked about how easy it was to fool me. That was the one that broke something in the room. Not the cheating. Not the hotel. The laughing. My father read one message out loud by accident, then stopped halfway through. His face turned red. For weeks, he had told me not to ruin my marriage over jealousy. Now he couldn't even look at me. Emily covered her face. Her mother whispered, Emily, what did you do? But Emily didn't answer her. She looked at me. That was when the performance began. I was unhappy, she said through tears. I didn't know how to tell you. I almost smiled. Because I had expected every word. Unhappy. Lonely. Confused. A mistake. The same safe little words people use when they want sympathy without responsibility. I looked at her and said, you weren't unhappy when you were moving money out of our joint account. Her crying stopped. Everyone looked at her. That was the second folder. I placed it on the table. Bank statements. Transfers. A private account. Small amounts at first. Then bigger ones. My mother put her hand over her mouth. Emily's father stood up slowly. Is this true? He asked. Emily looked trapped. I was scared, she said. Of what? I asked. That I would find out before you finished planning your exit? She said nothing. That silence was the closest thing to honesty I had received from her in months. Then her mother turned on me. Not because I was wrong. Because truth had embarrassed her daughter. You didn't have to do this in front of everyone, she snapped. I looked at her calmly. You were all comfortable judging me in front of everyone. That shut her down. My father cleared his throat. For a second I thought he would apologize. Instead, he looked at the table and said, Son, maybe this should stay private. Private. That word hit me harder than I expected. Because when everyone thought I was the problem, nobody wanted privacy. They gave advice. They gave opinions. They gave judgment. But now that the truth was ugly, suddenly everyone wanted silence. I stood up. No, I said. It stayed private while she lied. It stayed private while Ryan came into my house. It stayed private while you all called me jealous. I'm done protecting people who never protected me. Emily reached for my hand. I pulled away. Please, she whispered. Don't destroy my life. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said, you already destroyed it. I'm just refusing to be buried under the wreckage. That was when my phone rang. Ryan. His name lit up on the screen. I placed the phone on the table so everyone could see it. Then I answered and put it on speaker. Ryan didn't wait. You sent Laura everything? He shouted. Are you insane? Nobody moved. Emily went pale. Ryan kept going. You think this makes you a man? You ruined my marriage. I looked at Emily. Then I looked at both families. And I said, Ryan, you're on speaker. Silence. Long, beautiful silence. Then a small click. He hung up. That one call did more than any speech could have done. Emily's father sat back down like his legs had lost strength. My father finally looked at me. This time there was no lecture in his eyes. Only shame. I picked up the folders and placed them back into my bag. I've already spoken to a lawyer, I said. The divorce papers will be filed Monday. Emily shook her head. No, please. We can fix this. I almost believed she believed that. But people like Emily don't want to fix the damage. They want to escape the consequences. I said, there is no we anymore. She broke down completely. Her mother held her. My mother cried quietly. My father stood near the window, staring outside like he wished he could rewind every word he had said to me. But I didn't need his regret. Not anymore. I had spent too many nights waiting for someone to believe me. Now the proof had done what my pain could not. Made them listen. I left the house that afternoon with one suitcase. Emily begged me not to go. She followed me to the driveway, barefoot, crying in front of the neighbors. A month earlier that would have destroyed me. Seeing her cry would have made me turn around. But that version of me was gone. I put the suitcase in my truck. She grabbed my arm. I love you, she said. For the first time those words sounded cheap. No, I said. You love the life I gave you. There's a difference. Then I drove away. I didn't go to a hotel. I didn't go to my parents. I went to a small apartment I had already rented under my name only. A clean place. Quiet. No wedding photos. No shared furniture. No memories hiding in the walls. For the first time in months I slept through the night. But Emily didn't. By Monday morning the divorce papers were filed. By Tuesday Ryan's wife Laura had contacted my lawyer. By Wednesday Ryan was removed from the company project we had both worked on for years. He had used business trips as cover. Company money had paid for some of those meetings. That was not my accusation. That was in the receipts. And receipts have a way of speaking louder than revenge. Ryan called me again that night. This time I answered. His voice was different. No shouting. No confidence. Just fear. Man, he said, we need to talk. I looked around my quiet apartment. Then I said, we already did. You just didn't know everyone was listening. He cursed under his breath. You're taking this too far. I laughed once. Not because it was funny. Because betrayal always sounds different when the consequences finally arrive. You slept with my wife, I said. You smiled in my kitchen. You let me treat you like family. And now you want limits. He had no answer. So I gave him one. Here's what happens next. You stay away from me. You stay away from my family. You stay away from my house. And when the lawyers call, you answer. He said, you're going to regret this. That was the first real mistake he made after being exposed. Because I recorded that call too. The next morning, my lawyer smiled for the first time since I hired her. This helps, she said. I sat across from her in a glass office downtown, watching sunlight hit the table between us. For weeks, I had felt like a man drowning quietly while everyone stood on shore calling me dramatic. Now I had air again. My lawyer tapped the folder. Your wife is going to ask for sympathy, she said. Ryan will try to minimize his involvement. Families may pressure you. Mutual friends may choose sides. I nodded. I know. She studied me for a second. Are you prepared for that? I looked out the window at the city below. Then I thought about Emily's lies. Ryan's smile. My father's doubts. The money. The hotel. The messages where they laughed at me. And I said, I'm not trying to win people anymore. I'm trying to be free. My lawyer leaned back. Good, she said. Then we do this clean. But clean did not mean easy. Because 2 days later, Emily made her final move. She posted online. Not the truth. A story. A soft, heartbreaking story about a marriage that had become cold. About a husband who had changed. About emotional neglect. About choosing herself. She didn't name me directly. She didn't have to. Friends started messaging. Some asked what happened. Some offered support. Some judged me without asking a single question. And for a few hours I almost reacted. I almost posted everything. Every photo. Every message. Every receipt. But revenge done in anger can make you look as guilty as the people who hurt you. So I waited. That night I uploaded one thing. Not the hotel photos. Not the messages. Just a short statement. I will not discuss my private divorce online. But I will say this. There is documented evidence, legal counsel is involved, and the people who know the full truth know why I walked away. That was all. No insults. No names. No drama. And somehow that made it worse for her. Because people can argue with anger. They can't argue with control. By morning, Emily deleted her post. But it was too late. The questions had started. And the people who had judged me first were beginning to wonder what she was hiding. Then Laura called me. Ryan's wife. Her voice was tired. Broken. But steady. I found more, she said. I sat up. What do you mean? She took a shaky breath. It wasn't just your wife. The room went cold. I didn't speak. Laura continued. There were others. And I think Ryan used your house more than once when you were away. I closed my eyes. For a moment, the anger came back. Hot. Sure. Dangerous. But I forced it down. Because now this was bigger than my marriage. This was a man who had used friendship as a key. A man who walked through my front door while carrying secrets behind his back. Laura said, I'm sending you everything. My phone buzzed. One file. Then another. Then another. And as I opened them, I realized the truth I had uncovered was only the first layer. Emily had betrayed me as a wife. Ryan had betrayed me as a friend. But together they had built something much uglier than an affair. They had built a lie that reached into my home, my money, my family, and my reputation. And now I had a choice. Walk away quietly. Or finish what they started. I looked at the files Laura sent me. Then I called my lawyer. When she answered, I said only one sentence. We need to expand the case. When I told my lawyer we needed to expand the case, she didn't ask if I was sure. She only said, send me everything. So I did. Every file Laura had sent. Every receipt. Every message. Every photo. Every strange transfer from the joint account. Every date Ryan had been inside my home while I was away on work trips. For 2 days I barely slept. Not because I was broken. Because I was finally seeing the full shape of the lie. Emily had not just cheated. She had prepared. She had moved money. She had spoken to people first. She had built a version of me that made her look trapped and innocent. Ryan had not just betrayed a friendship. He had used my trust like a tool. He knew my schedule. He knew my house. He knew my family. He knew exactly where to stand so I would never see the knife until it was already in my back. But now I had something they never expected. Proof. And proof does not cry. Proof does not beg. Proof does not care about excuses. It simply waits for the right room. The first room was my lawyer's office. The second was a conference room downtown, where Emily arrived with her attorney, wearing a soft gray coat and the same wounded expression she had used online. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not innocent. Smaller. Ryan was not there, but his name was everywhere. On the pages. In the messages. In the bank records. In the hotel receipts. Emily's attorney began politely. My client is hoping for a peaceful resolution. My lawyer smiled. A peaceful resolution is possible. A dishonest one is not. Emily looked down. Her attorney slid a document across the table. They wanted the house. Half my savings. Support. And a statement that the marriage had ended due to irreconcilable differences. I read that phrase twice. Irreconcilable differences. That was a clean phrase. A comfortable phrase. A phrase designed to bury ugly truth under polite language. I pushed the paper back. No. Emily's eyes lifted. My lawyer opened her folder. For the next 15 minutes she spoke calmly. No drama. No shouting. Just facts. Unexplained withdrawals. Private account transfers. Evidence of an affair. Potential misuse of company-funded travel. Messages indicating planning before separation. A public post that suggested false claims against me. With every sentence, Emily's attorney looked less confident. Emily's face changed from sadness to fear. That was the thing about her performance. It only worked when nobody had the script. My lawyer finished and said, my client is not interested in humiliation. He is interested in fairness. But if your client wants to fight dirty, we are fully prepared to present everything. Everything. That word landed in the room like a locked door closing. Emily whispered my name. I did not answer. She tried again. Can we talk alone? I looked at the woman who had lied to my face for months. Then I said, anything you want to say can be said here. Her lips trembled. I made mistakes. I leaned back. No. You made choices. She started crying again. But this time nobody moved to comfort her. Not even her attorney. Because tears are powerful when people are unsure. They are useless when the evidence is already on the table. The meeting ended with no agreement. But something had shifted. Emily had walked in expecting guilt to save her. She walked out understanding that guilt had limits. 2 days later, Ryan lost his position. Officially, it was called an internal restructuring. Unofficially, everyone knew. He had used business trips to cover personal lies. He had charged meals and travel that no longer looked clean. He had created a mess that his company could not ignore. I did not call his boss. I did not threaten him. I did not beg anyone to punish him. I simply gave my lawyer permission to provide the relevant documents when they were legally requested.